The Orbital Launch Mount has been mounted, and Pad B is now one step closer to being ready for rocket operations. We're in the home stretch of Flight 9 now after Ship 35's successful static fire. The date has very slightly shifted again. Will SpaceX get this one right? Also, just how many more Block 2 ships will we see tested? And ESA shows us how formation flying in space works down to the millimeter. My name is Felix, welcome to What About It, let's dive right in. Starship updates. We are racing towards Flight 9. It's just a few days until the targeted no earlier than May 21st that we've seen according to the newest Coast Guard hazard notice. Everything seemed to be in constant motion these last few days, with critical testing and also critical infrastructure being moved into place. Booster 14-2 is now back at the pad, and Ship 35, at the time of this episode's recording, was undergoing final checkouts back at Mega Bay 2 before its trek to the launch site. Pad B just hit a major milestone. The Orbital Launch Mount is no longer a construction site centerpiece. It's now close to being bolted in place, sitting high above the flame trench and starting to look like it could be ready for action. It took two of SpaceX's largest crawler cranes to lift and rotate the nearly 1,000 metric ton structure into its final position, and now that it's there, the entire launch site feels different. You know what else weighs 1,000 tons? Try around 33 large trucks, or 10 blue whales, 710 average cars. Or the weight to be lifted of the space community when Ship 35 doesn't explode. Just saying. The lift was no small feat. You can see via our cameras how the cranes had to meticulously tiptoe their way closer to the resting point while keeping this monster suspended in mid-air. Those crane operators. Beautifully orchestrated by the construction team, I think we are all glad that this lift is done. We'll talk about what's next for Pad B in great detail later on in the episode. This is the kind of milestone that shifts momentum and forces you to refresh your perspective on SpaceX's pace and cadence. While the OLM was being lifted into place, Ship 35 conducted another static fire attempt. This time all 6 engines burned for the full 60 seconds with no errors or weird colors. SpaceX really needed a quick, successful, long-duration static fire for Ship 35, and they've got it now. SpaceX's post on X confirms that everything went as expected. The timing here is likely a coincidence, but it is beautiful to watch. The OLM is up and the ship is tested, the launch window opens in just a few days, and finally SpaceX has a vehicle, a booster, and a pad, all looking like they're ready for Flight 9. Yes! Over at Pad B, the next steps are already lining up. It still needs its booster quick disconnect arms, venting, plumbing, and heat shielding, while the tower still lacks the ship quick disconnect arm. But with the core hardware now installed, SpaceX can move fast, and if the pace holds, Pad B could become fully operational soon, a few more months. With Ship 35 undergoing final checkouts, all eyes turn to the other half of the stack. It initially completed its static fire about a month ago on April 3rd on the pad. It is now back on Pad A's launch table. There is something to keep in mind. Booster 14-2 will be the first time SpaceX is reflying a super heavy booster. As we get closer to the targeted launch window, teams will move quickly. A rollout of Ship 35 to the pad is very likely next. Then SpaceX will stack it for the final wet dress rehearsal, which will again be very likely just a partial fill as seen on previous flights. After that, we have two options. Either SpaceX finds no issues whatsoever and leaves the ship stacked as they wanted to on Flight 8, or we see one final destack to ensure everything is 100% the way SpaceX wants it to be before the big day. This time SpaceX has a friend by its side. Booster 14-2 has already proven it can handle a test flight. Even though this might sound risky, it might actually be an advantage. For flown Falcon 9 boosters, SpaceX even has a special term: flight proven. And Ship 35 finally conquered the 60-second static fire challenge. Both major components for Flight 9 have been proven at full scale, and we can now begin the countdown to stack and fly in earnest. The final verdict? Everything looks dandy. The latest launch window info points towards May 21st per US Coast Guard hazard notice, with the window opening at 6:30 p.m. and closing at 8:34 local starbase time. An evening launch. We will be streaming. Mark the day. I am so looking forward to biting my nails together with you. Peeking ahead into a post-Flight 9 world is difficult. 3 Block 2 ships, Ship 36, 37 and 38, are currently packed into Mega Bay 2, and all eyes are on what direction the company takes with them after this launch. With the trouble this variant has faced and sightings of what seems to be Block 3 hardware already appearing at the production site in ships 39 and 40, it is possible that SpaceX is preparing to jump straight into the next iteration. In the last episode, we detailed how Test Tank 17, the first confirmed Block 3 Super Heavy test tank, has already arrived at Massey's. It's the first hardware we've seen with a completely new tile system, possibly made from metal and perhaps using actively cooled tiles. On top of that, it has a radically different engine mount design. That is a significant departure from the ceramic heat shield we've grown familiar with. As we know, Booster 14-2 will fly again for Flight 9, and SpaceX still has Booster 15-1 on hand as a proven test article. But what more can really be learned from the first generation design, especially on the booster side? The answer may lie in the radical redesigns already underway. Both Block 3 ships and boosters are beginning to show signs of significant change. If iteration speed is the goal, SpaceX may be better off focusing on those newer designs to move faster. That becomes even more important when you consider the timeline. The next Mars transit window starts in November of 2026, and the race back to the moon is picking up in a different way. Every flight that helps validate reusability and large-scale production matters. To keep pace, they'll need more test articles, and fast. That is where the production ramp comes into play. We've been watching the original high bay slowly come down. Recent aerial shots from RGV and our own Jordan Guidry are giving us a better view of what's coming next. The footprint of the Gigabay is becoming clearer, and we know its sole purpose is to house future test articles like next generation ships and boosters. If you were to compare the process of the Starship prototype testing program to a faucet, it is currently dripping. But the spigot is about to be fully turned on. Before anyone gets too excited about Pad B handling the next flight, we should talk about the hardware it still needs. And before we do that, here is a word from today's sponsor. Conditions out here at Starbase can be rough at times, and we've experienced it firsthand, quite often now. Still, the grind never stops and Starbase never sleeps. Here's our way of staying ahead of the storm and on top of what the weather wants to throw at us. Have a look at what today's sponsor, My Radar, has to offer for you too. Out in Boca Chica, we have to be able to rely on good weather data, and so does SpaceX. After all, they don't want to find their latest prototype lying in the ditch after being blown over by an unexpected storm. The same is very much true for our camera equipment. My Radar provides valuable early warnings. Thanks to that, we're never unprepared when storms or flooding roll in. And My Radar can do so much more. You can monitor wildfires, track storms, and set up custom alerts. And the feature I love the most will blow your mind too. You can follow orbital objects like rockets and even Mars rovers. Best of all, My Radar is for free. So whether you are gearing up to hunt for rockets or staying ahead of storms and rain, My Radar always has you covered. Click the link in the description to download it for free and stay informed about what's coming your way. My Radar can be your radar right now. All sunshine and blue skies, let's continue with Pad B. What is missing? The Orbital Launch Mount might be nearly bolted down, but it's far from ready to host a full stack. There are still lots of things that need to happen at Pad B. The chopsticks will need to be proven out more and tested thoroughly before attempting a catch. At Pad A, the installation alone took weeks, followed by calibrations, pressure tests, and plenty of minor fixes. Even with a faster turnaround this time, it's hard to imagine Pad B being ready for a full mission before late summer. The same goes for the vent plumbing, the final installation layers, and the tower safety systems. Without them, Pad B remains a promising work in progress, not a certified launch facility. For now, all signs still point to Pad A for probably a few more flights after Flight 9. While Pad B's chopsticks were recently raised to maximum height for testing, they've yet to attempt catching an actual ship or booster. It's possible that another catch attempt won't come until Booster 15 or beyond, when confidence in Block 2 upgrades is higher and SpaceX feels like the risk-reward ratio makes sense. Still, each successful test and soft landing brings us a step closer to seeing those chopsticks in action again. And once they are, Starship enters a very different phase. But even that isn't the whole picture. All of this happens under the pressure of real and hard deadlines that they don't even set. SpaceX has ambitious goals for Starship and the clock is ticking. NASA already moved the Artemis 3 launch date to mid-2027 in December last year. To support that mission, SpaceX needs to prove cryogenic propellant transfer as fast as possible. No pressure at all. Pun intended. And that is just the moon. The next Mars transit window opens in 2026. And we all know how Elon thinks about that. While it is unlikely Starship will be fully ready for cargo delivery by then, the pressure to demonstrate rapid reuse, fast stacking, and interplanetary transfer capability is only increasing. Maybe just a flight to Mars and landing could be possible. Anything substantial for a Mars flight in 2026 is likely off the table by now. That's why the developments at Starbase and soon Florida matter so much. Gigabay construction, booster design changes, new tile systems, they are not just technical milestones. They are part of a sprint toward orbital maturity. What do you think? Will Flight 9 be a success? Do you dare to give your verdict in the comments? I'll go ahead and say yes, there, I said it. Before we get into some incredible news about Axiom Space, let me say that creating Y episodes is a team effort. Even if you don't know it yet, you are very much a part of this team and can help me out easily. Our channel metrics show over 4 million returning monthly viewers who have not subscribed yet. Help improve the channel and double check that you've hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with our updates. Like this video if you appreciate the content and become a Y supporter for extra content. Secure your access to up to 7 picture galleries per week, satellite, aerial and ground photos and 3D animations, chat with me and gain more insights on the topic you love. The entire team is waiting for you, you rock! Axiom Space is preparing to send its 4th private astronaut mission to the International Space Station, and it is shaping up to be a global moment. Scheduled for May 29th, AX-4 will carry astronauts from 4 different countries to low Earth orbit, marking a rare alignment of international space ambitions. Once again, Peggy Whitson, one of the most experienced astronauts on Earth, is commanding the mission. She's flown to space thrice, spent over 665 days off-world, and led 2 long-duration ISS expeditions. Thank you from the entire spaceflight community, Peggy, you rock! This time she's steering a commercial crew that includes India's Shubhanshu Shukla, Poland's Slavoj Uznanski-Wisniewski, and Hungary's Tibor Kapu. All 3 fly under programs representing a return to human spaceflight for their countries. For India, it ties directly into the Gaganyaan initiative. For Poland, this will be their first crewed mission since 1980. And for Hungary, it's a long-awaited follow-up to their cosmonaut mission during the Soviet era. The crew will launch aboard SpaceX's Crew Dragon on a Falcon 9 rocket from Kennedy's Space Center Launch Complex 39A. Once docked, they will spend up to 14 days aboard the ISS conducting research, demonstrations, and outreach. Each astronaut brings specific national and scientific goals. Shukla will run a suite of experiments from ISRO focused on microgravity's effect on muscle atrophy, crop development, and microbial adaptation. Uznanski-Wisniewski is flying Poland's Ignis mission, among other things testing onboard AI to process data in orbit without relying heavily on Earth-based infrastructure. Kapu's Hunor mission focuses on material science and human physiology, advancing Hungary's capabilities in space-based research. AX-4 is a statement that human spaceflight is evolving. Countries that have been absent from orbit for decades are returning, this time through public-private collaboration. But this mission isn't just about research, it's part of Axiom's broader goal: to demonstrate how commercial platforms can serve as launchpads for international crew access. Every seed flown now helps build the case for the Axiom station, which could start hosting its first modules as early as 2026. With a veteran commander leading the crew and 3 nations returning to human spaceflight, AX-4 clearly shows how commercial missions are broadening the field. As launch day approaches, it's already becoming one of the year's most internationally significant crewed flights. And it's a preview of how international partnerships might look once Axiom Station becomes reality. One of NASA's upcoming commercial moon missions has hit a speed bump. A lunar lander being developed by iSpace US is now officially delayed to 2027 after the company made a major change to the vehicle's propulsion system. The lander, called Apex 1.0, was scheduled to fly as part of NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services program. But after an internal design review, iSpace decided to drop the Aerojet Rocketdyne XR5 engine and instead go with Void Aerospace's Void Runner engine, which uses a methane and oxygen propellant mix. That is way different. That decision kicked off a wave of redesigns. Engineers had to reposition the engine mount, update avionics layouts, and rework the thermal protection system. And every one of those changes needs to be requalified before the lander can fly. While this is a different spacecraft from iSpace Japan's Hakuto R series, it carries just as much significance. The CLIPS program is NASA's way of jump-starting commercial access to the lunar surface. And the Apex 1.0 lander is one of the early bets in that strategy. It was supposed to fly in 2026, delivering a mix of NASA-funded science and tech demos to the moon. Now, that timeline is slipping by at least a year. And while engine upgrades may lead to better performance down the line, the schedule impact is hard to ignore. The new engine could simplify operations and improve performance, but it also adds pressure. As a fun fact, there are actually 3 companies worldwide in the aerospace sector, all called iSpace. iSpace US, iSpace Japan, and iSpace China. A bit confusing, way to go on names, friends. If iSpace US can land successfully, it will mark a big step forward for private lunar logistics and a key milestone for NASA's goal of building a commercial presence on the moon. Now, most of us won't get to fly to the moon for a bit longer, but how about a helicopter option? Check out redlineheli.com/Felix for a once-in-a-lifetime experience and $25 off flying in a helicopter above Starbase. What gets crazier? The Redline helicopter team is waiting for you. They'll show you the same views our photographer Jordan gets on his Starbase flights. Give it a try. And here is a very special shout out to our operation partners at Starbase, Raptor Roost. Flight 9 is approaching rapidly and there is only one spot that is closest to the action. Raptor Roost. Go to raptor-roost.com and book your spot to watch a Starship launch in person with the greatest community there is at Starbase. That's raptor-roost.com. Book your tickets now. ESA just pulled off something that sounds almost impossible. 2 spacecraft, launched separately and flying independently, lined up with such incredible precision that they essentially became one. It is part of a mission called Proba 3, designed to demonstrate ultra-accurate formation flying in space. And this week it hit a major milestone. The 2 spacecraft, named the Coronagraph and the Occulter, flew in formation at a distance of 144 meters from each other. That doesn't sound too much though. But here's the kicker. Their alignment was accurate to within 1 millimeter. That is tighter than a fingernail, and they did it without tethers, robotic arms, or rigid connections of any kind. This isn't just a neat space trick, it is a masterclass of engineering and the foundation for future missions that will rely on precise multi-satellite configurations. Think of large telescopes where one satellite carries the lens and another carries the camera. Or telescopes and other detectors distributing sensors and collecting data from different vantage points and combining it in real time. A large array of small telescopes in space, similar to the VLA here on Earth, just with satellites. Those could surpass the abilities of single-craft telescopes like James Webb by a factor of 100 or more. In the case of Proba 3, this level of precision allows the Occulter to block out the sun, while the Coronagraph captures images of the solar corona, similar to an artificial eclipse. It is a technique that could pave the way for more advanced solar observatories free from the limitations of a single spacecraft. ESA's mission control team is now preparing for more complex maneuvers, including lateral shifts and tighter alignments. Again, formation flying isn't just a neat trick of engineering. Think modular systems, larger observatories, and collaborative vehicles that dock, detach, and reconfigure on demand. A piece of space history just made a fiery return to Earth. The object was part of a failed mission to Venus. Cosmos 482 was intended to follow the footsteps of its twin, Venera 8, which successfully landed on the planet. But things went wrong shortly after launch. The spacecraft failed to escape Earth orbit and instead got stuck circling the planet in a highly elliptical trajectory. And there it remained for more than 5 decades! Yeah, that is a really long time to be going in circles. The piece that re-entered was likely part of the descent module or associated hardware made of titanium and built to endure the brutal heat of the Venusian atmosphere. Turns out that also makes it more than capable of surviving re-entry through Earth's atmosphere even after 53 years of orbital decay. Whee! Whee! Officials have confirmed that the object didn't pose a safety threat and there were no injuries reported. It did, however, spark renewed interest in the backlog of defunct spacecraft still orbiting the planet. Cosmos 482 isn't alone. Dozens of failed missions, upper stages, and long-dead satellites continue to circle Earth, waiting for gravity to pull them back. This is also a reminder that space hardware doesn't just disappear. Sometimes it comes home long after the people who launched it have moved on or passed away. Cosmos 482 was built during the height of the Soviet space program. It re-entered a world that now includes private space stations, reusable rockets, and spacecraft on their way to Mars and beyond. It may not have reached Venus, but after all this time, Cosmos 482 still managed to make history. That's it for today. Before watching the bloopers, remember to smash the like button, subscribe for more. This is what fuels the algorithm. This is how you can help us for free. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store. A new Raptor design and our brand new Flight 9 designs are both up. Link is in the description and in the cards you should see now. Also check out our print store at shop.whataboutit.space to buy a picture for your favorite wall. A significant amount of every purchase goes directly to our photographer Jordan. And if you want to learn more about SpaceX's Raptor engine and how it is completely revolutionizing spaceflight, watch this video next to continue your journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode. That's a significant, yes. Things that need to be, no. Is only decreasing, my friend. No. Nah.